So, if gun control works so well, why is Chicago not the safest place in America? I'm just wondering.
Because guns pour into the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois from red states with lax gun laws. A 10-year study was done on guns recovered in crime scenes in the city of Chicago so that they could trace back where these guns came from. And a majority of the guns recovered in crime scene investigations in Chicago, Illinois, came from Indiana, Alabama, Mississippi, states, red states with lax gun laws. Because you see, what happens is as follows. Blue states put a shit ton of regulations and steps that you have to go through in order to legally buy a gun. Red states strip those things back in their states. So in red states, specifically in, I believe, 32 or 33 red states, you can walk into a gun show and you can buy a gun from a private collector without having to submit to a background check. If you buy from a federally licensed firearm dealer at the same gun show, you're going to have to submit a background check. But 33 red states allow for private collectors to sell at their booths without mandating that they go through a federal background check. Because you see, the federal background check system doesn't include person-to-person sales. If I'm going to sell you a gun, I don't have to run a background check on you if I'm in a red state, because the federal government says I don't have to run a background check on you, and my state hasn't made me do it. In Illinois, we would have to do that. In blue states, you have to do that. In red states, for the most part, you don't. So people go to gun shows in red states like Indiana, like Louisiana, like Alabama, these states that I mentioned that were cited in this study, and they buy large quantities of guns from private collectors at gun shows without even having to give a name, without having to show a driver's license or submit to a background check. You can walk in and buy 500 guns from a private collector without filling out a fucking piece of paperwork. And then they take those guns to blue states and blue cities like Chicago, Illinois, and they sell them on the black market. Because for the longest time, you couldn't even buy a gun legally in the city of Chicago. So it's like the old cockroach story that I tell. If you live in an apartment that you wash every day, you wash the floor every day, you clean the toilet every day, you wash your dishes and clean your countertops every day, you clean your apartment every day to avoid an infestation. But your neighbor lets their trash pile up and doesn't clean anything. When they get cockroaches and they eventually make their way over to your apartment, who's to blame for those cockroaches? You or your neighbor? Your neighbor, of course. That's what's happening in this. What has happened over the years in the city of Chicago. People have purchased mass amounts of guns at from private collectors at gun shows in red states and brought those guns to the city of Chicago and sold them on the black market. As a matter of fact, we could ask the opposite. If having more guns made us safe, then why isn't the United States of America the safest country on the planet?